to my own channel. Welcome back. Welcome myself back. I actually haven't been gone that long this time. I actually have uploaded more often. Shocking. But today's video, what was that? Today's video is the video on how I found a 50-gallon tank outside, and I revamped it and cleaned it out and basically made it safe for my turtles back here to live in. So let's get started. So in this video I use a lot of chemicals to clean a very dirty tank that I found that one of my neighbors threw away. So I found it outside and I bring it in. And basically what I'm doing is, and I bring it in and I cleaned it up. So I didn't know what was wrong with the tank. I didn't know why I threw it out, but I was determined to figure that out. So far I found no reason. But I did find that there was a lot of dirt and nasty gunk in there, and it was snowing. So there was a lot of snow and pebbles in there that were from possible fish that were living in there. I don't know if they just wanted to get rid of it or if something's wrong with it. So I decided to take it in and figure it out myself. So while I was cleaning it up, I used a bunch of chemicals because I was very paranoid about what was going on in that tank. I do not recommend that you do that. Do as I say and not as I do. I recommend that you use at least just one safe chemical that is safe for animals. I used a bunch of chemicals, not recommended, that are not safe for animals, not recommended. But I did let the tank air out for a few months before I put any living beings in there. And I did also, while letting it air out, after I let it air out dry, I filled it up with water, tested it, made sure that it can hold, and then after that I let the filter run through it for like another month, and I just left it alone. So it's been a few months, probably 6 or 4, when nothing's been in it. It's just been running, circulating, testing the waters, making sure it's safe for the turtles, and making sure it's safe for any living being that goes inside of there, because you don't want to think that you're cleaning the tank and you have all these chemicals in there and you just drop your living animals in there. No, it's not going to work out. You're probably going to, no, not probably, you're definitely going to kill your animals. You're going to harm them. Those are harsh chemicals, and you should be very careful with that. And I recommend that you actually don't use any of the stuff that I use, except for the stuff that I recommend. So like the PhD, that's fine in small amounts. The barbecue spread, or I think that's what it's called, bartender spread, barbecue spread. That, you can use that, but in small amounts and still air it out. But all the other stuff like bleach and all this other harsh chemicals and cleaning stuff, I wouldn't recommend using. I just used it because I'm very impatient, and I knew that I also had time though to let it air out and have it circulate, and I wasn't in a rush to put anything in there. So that's the only reason why I did it. I still don't recommend that you did it. I'm just showing you what I did, how I got it cleaned up. So I'm gonna stop rambling now. Without further ado, here's how I cleaned a tank that I found. Moments after we bring it inside, you can see there's a bunch of dirt and snow and a bunch of blue pebbles just scattered all around. It's full of dirty, murky liquid, and it's just covered in calcium crust all over the tank, which just proves to me that the owners didn't really clean it that much. And yeah, I don't think the calcium would have built up within the time that it was outside, because I noticed it that day and it wasn't outside the day before. So that calcium has been there for a while inside the home, and you can see how thick it is. It's literally all crusted over, and it's just disgusting looking. And there's also that little thing in there. I'm not sure what it is. It looks like it might have been part to a filter or a bubbler, but there that is. I don't know what that is, but I did take it out. And yeah, so this is what I'm working with so far. Some gloves, made sure that I got them on nice and tight. And then after I got my gloves on, I got straight to work. Grabbed myself a bag, garbage bag, and I started to take out the chunks of ice and snow that were in there that were easy to pick up. So I took all the big pieces out first, just so that it was easier on me. Okay, there's a better view for you guys. So you can see I have an ice chunk in my hand, just filled with dirt and pebbles, and I'm just taking all of those out. And after I get the majority of those out, I start scooping up the pebbles with a cup. And it's just easier for me because I did try to use my hands for the majority of it, but I ended up going back and getting the cup anyway after I got the majority of the pebbles out because it was just hard to scoop up. Another ice chunk, and I'm just scooping all the pebbles together in one area so that I can pick it up a lot easier. And I'm just scooping all the pebbles together in one area so that I can pick it up a lot easier. So, like I said before, I did find this tank outside. It was one of my neighbors that lived maybe 3 blocks away. I do not know what they had in this tank or why they threw the tank away. As far as I could see, the only thing that was really bad about the tank was the amount of calcium buildup and the silicone starting to peel off from the sides. Now, I don't know if the silicone was peeling off while it was in their care or if it was peeling off because they left it outside and it was cold and the silicone shrunk. But either way, those are the two main problems that I saw. I didn't see any cracks or scratches really. It was just those two problems, so I decided those are fixable. And I decided I was going to clean out the tank myself. And the container, and every time I tilt it to the side, all the water goes to one side, and I'm just scooping up the dirty water and dumping it so that I can get it out. So I'm taking this old ramen cup that I found, and I'm scooping out that dirty water and just throwing it into this bucket so that I can trash it and discard it.
So all that was left in the tank is a plug-in thing. So if you guys know exactly what this thing is, please let me know in the comments. I've never seen it before, so I wouldn't know. And I've never really had a filter that looked like that before, so I wouldn't know if it was a filter either. So let me know if you know what it was. But all I did was I wrapped the cord around itself, and I just put it in a plastic bag and put it away.
Spraying down this calcium buildup that's all over the tank. So I've got this bleach spray. I am just spraying all over the tank, making sure not to miss any calcium spots. Like I said in the very beginning of the video, I do not recommend that you use this or any of the other chemicals that I am going to bring out. What I do recommend that you try first is using just plain dish soap and using pH down to get rid of the calcium, and using maybe Goo Gone for the silicone if it's peeling, and Barkeeper's Friend for the silicone and the calcium buildup as well. I would recommend that you use those things first. I was just scrubbing away and I decided to use these things. I put a lot actually, but it did help get rid of most of the stuff, the gunk and junk on the tank. And that is something that if you have time, I do recommend. You can use the Dawn soap. Just make sure that you get every ounce of soap out of that tank before you put any living being in there. And here I am scrubbing, and it gave me a nice soapy texture, and I was able to scrub most of that dirt and gunk off of the tank. So what I did here was I just soaked up paper towels and put it all over the thick calcium buildup that was around the tank and built up on the sides of the tank. And right here now I have the tank sideways. It was just easier for me to get it. I'm using pH down, and it lowers the water's pH levels. But I do take this. It's like an acid. I do take it. It's actually safe for animals in small amounts. But I am going to take it to get rid of this calcium buildup that is on the side of the tank that did not come off with any of the other chemicals. So as you can see, the more I scrub, the more it chips away. So I just do this to both sides of the tank, because actually there was calcium buildup on the inside and the outside of the tank, which is crazy to me, but that's just what it was. So I scrubbed the inside and the outside with this. making sure to be very careful. You should be wearing gloves when you're doing this. I am not. I was wearing gloves the majority of this video, and for some reason I did not add more gloves on in this clip. Again, do as I say and not as I do. But as you can see with me scrubbing, you can already see that it's getting more clear as I scrub away that calcium. And then I'm just gonna wipe in a downwards motion. And it is pretty clear. The rest of the kind of dust you're seeing is from the other side of the tank. And you can see it right through this clear part here. And you can see the difference when I pan the camera down. You can see the difference between the part that I scrubbed and the part that I haven't touched yet. So there's the part that I scrubbed, and there's the part that I haven't touched yet. Very cloudy, and you can already see a difference. So I'm going to just do this to the rest of the tank. I'm going to put my hand inside the tank so you can really see. It's clear, and it's very cloudy. So it is making a slight difference, so I decided to keep using this on the outside and the inside of the tank to get it looking pretty clear. Down, and I started to scrub with the sponge, and I just scrubbed as much as I could off. I scrubbed really hard, and actually the calcium was so thick that it was doing more damage to the sponge than it was doing to itself. So I could see the sponge starting to peel off. So what I decided to do was, after I gave up on the sponge, I decided to switch out for something else that was stronger. So after I used the sponge and the plastic knife, I finally found my SOS steel wood pads. So after I got the steel wood pads, I just scraped really hard on the calcium buildup. It did take off most of it. There was still like a little bit of calcium residue left on there that I got off with a scraper that I got on Amazon instead later on in the video. So it did work. I did scrape a little hard, and it got most of it off, but in the end I ended up just using the scraper. But here I'm adding the pH down to the steel wool pad and just scrubbing away, and as you can see, that top part, it just came right off, but the calcium was just so thick on the bottom part that it was barely even doing anything. So I would recommend that you don't use the plastic knife or the sponge for this part. If you have really thick calcium buildup, get yourself a steel wool pad, some pH down, barkeeper's friend, and scrub and scrub. And if it's not working with scrubbing, that's when you use the scraper from Amazon that I will show later on in the video. So what I am doing in this clip, I am just wiping down everything, just so I can see what it looks like, if it's really clear or not. It was still cloudy, but I am just wiping down everything from the inside and the outside, just really making sure that I get off all the stuff that I put in there. And here's my butt in the camera. Sorry about that. For some reason, I find a way to get my feet in every clip in every video that I do, and I cannot edit this one out, so you guys win this time. But I'm just wiping it down with a bunch of paper towels, and as you can see, it's still very cloudy, but it's still better looking than between the silicone and the glass, and that just means that it's peeling up, or it shrunk outside from the cold weather, from being outside so long. But since I could literally stick my finger in between the glass and the silicone and lift it up, I decided that I had to remove all of that silicone. But for the calcium, I took just the blade out, the calcium that was still on the brim, and I just scraped off that calcium, and most of it did come off. So after scraping and scrubbing with the sponge, it came off. So that is what I would use the blade for, is for the calcium buildup. I wouldn't necessarily use it for the silicone. For the silicone, I would use this scraper that I got off of Amazon. It wasn't too expensive. It was like $12, but it came with the blade and the scraper part, and it came with extra blades in case you have to change it out. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, so get it off of Amazon. I'd recommend that you do that instead of the box cutter.
So
but I do recommend that you be very careful.
I did cut myself while using that scraper. It is very sharp. It is not a toy. And just be careful. Be careful with your surroundings. Know what you're working with. And just make sure that you take the steps to make sure you don't harm yourself. So here I am just peeling up on both sides. It is actually a lot easier with this scraper than it is with the box cutter. So actually, I do recommend that you do not use the box cutter for the silicone. I recommend that you actually use the box cutter for the calcium buildup. Using that box cutter, it was a lot smoother, it lifted up a lot faster, and it just got the job done. I got it down to where there was no more silicone in the entire tank, and I was able to replace it myself. So after all that scraping, that's what you do. And it does look like it's a lot harder while I was recording, but it was a lot easier than using that box cutter. It was a lot of the silicone off of every angle of this tank. There's no more silicone on the inside. It's just silicone holding the two pieces together. So after I got all the silicone out of the inside of the tank, I sprayed it down with some Windex, wiped it off so that it was super duper clear and there was no dust getting stuck in between the corners, and so that the silicone, the new silicone, could stick onto the glass light. Okay, so after I clean the entirety of the tank, I make sure that I tape down all of the sides and corners of the tank with duct tape, not duct tape, painter's tape, and I grab my aquarium safe silicone, safe for animals in small amounts, once dry, and I grab my caulk gun. I put the silicone in the caulk gun and it makes it easier for application. I got these two items separately on Amazon. In the lines of the tape and just smooth it over with my finger after that. And quickly after smoothing it over with your finger, just make sure that you peel off all of the tape right away. Don't wait, because then the tape will dry with the silicone, and then once you try to peel off the tape, it will peel up the silicone that you... Okay, so here the video skips, but after I finish the silicone process and wait for it to dry, and I fill up the tank completely with water to make sure it holds and there's no leaks in the silicone, no holes. After that was fine, I grabbed Barkeeper's Friend. I got that also off of Amazon, and now I am just scrubbing it into the tank. And after I'm done scrubbing it, I leave it on for approximately 15 minutes. And after the 15 minutes are up, I wash all the Barkeeper's Friend off of the tank, and I fill it up one more time to make sure we're good. And after that, it's ready to go. So after I get the tank all completely scrubbed down and watered up, I make sure that I leave the tank sitting with the barkeeper's friend for a while, probably like 15 minutes before I scrub it all off, just so I can make sure that it really got on the glass, it got in between everything. And so after that, I rinse it off, and after I rinse it off, I just wipe down the tank one last time after I scrub it down. And then after that, I just make sure I test the water to make sure that the new silicone that I added in there will hold. There's that small clip right there. And here is the fishies and turtles living their great lives. The water is clear, you can see right through it. It looks nice. Here is the before, the dirty, murky water. And here is the after, clean, pristine, and looking lean. That looks great. Just make sure that if you do use this, you be very careful. I do recommend that you don't try this at all. But I know how YouTube is. If you do it, just be very careful. I do not want any heat for anything that happens to anyone's animals because, yeah, that's why I repeated it so much in this video. But thank you so much for watching. If you watched this far, like, subscribe, comment, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.